The latest WASDE didn't deliver the bullish support traders were hoping for, but biofuel demand, a weaker dollar, and US-China trade talks are helping keep the markets afloat. We'll look at what's driving the rally and what could derail it. I'm Johanna Bota, and joining me today is StoneX's VP of Clearing and Execution Sales, Bertrand Oesterle. Welcome. Good morning, Bertrand. So let's get right into it. Last week, we were talking about the bulls hoping for consolidation. Did the WASDE provide any support?
It didn't. So the WASDE came in as expected with some lower yield estimates. So 186.7 bushel per acre for corn compared to the 188.8 of the previous month. And for soybean, 53.5, barely lower than the 53.6 from the previous month. But then the USDA surprised the market by finding more harvested acreage. So they came in with 19 million acres of harvested area in corn. So that was 1.3 million acres more, and they came in at 80.3 in soybean, which was 200,000 acres more. So overall, we lower the yields a little bit, we increase the area, we end up with a bigger production in the end. So for corn, it was 1.85 million tons more than the previous month, and for soybean, some 230,000 tons more than the previous month. So a bearish report.
So if the WASDE report wasn't behind the recent rally, then what was driving it?
So there's been quite a few elements of interest this week. It's been quite an eventful week. So first of all, just after the report, the biofuel industry came in force with some suggestions. So the RFA came in to say that because there's so much corn suddenly in the market, we need to find a home for it. So they are suggesting that the US government makes a push to force E15 blending, so ethanol 15% in your pump to be blended across the entire US states, and therefore that would create more demand for corn to ethanol, and therefore it would eat up some of that excess production of corn.
Okay.
Similarly, yesterday we had the EPA coming to suggesting that we should see some biodiesel demand as well, in the sense that they're looking at the small refinery exemptions, and they're saying that those small exemptions should be reallocated to obligations to blend. So again, that could create some more domestic US demand. And that comes at a time when the NOPA figures from August were actually a record high, so 189.8 million bushels. So it is already showing that there is high demand in the US, and the US industry is saying, let's get more internal demand into biofuel. So that's the first element. The second thing that came in is basically the US dollar movement. So we've got a Fed decision today. The Fed, as we know, has been under an awful lot of pressure from Trump. Trump's been talking about a weak dollar policy for ages. That's what he wants. The funds believe that he's going to get his way. The market expects 2 to 3 interest rate cuts by the end of the year, and we're supposed to get the first one today, so we'll know later tonight. And it's going to be potentially a 0.25% interest rate cut, so 25 basis points. That means that the dollar has been weaker, especially against the euro. It's made a 4-year low, for example, yesterday. And that means that if the dollar is weaker, it means that it is potentially better for US exporters to sell abroad. And that has supported Chicago wheat, corn, and soybean, for example, to the upside over the past week, although we've seen them taking a bit of profit this morning so far. And then there's the elephant in the room. We've got the US and China delegations which have been meeting in Madrid, and Trump can't help himself. So he's leaked a few bits and pieces saying that there is a TikTok deal on the table, and then expectation is that the trade deal may include something else, i.e. commodities. We're supposed to have a phone call between Trump and Xi on Friday. So on Friday, we're supposed to have an announcement after that call. The market is expecting a trade deal in some form, and it will be interesting to see if we're going to get some short covering pre-announcement in case wheat, corn, or soybean are involved in the trade deal, and in particular, if China makes a commitment to come back to buying US origin, which has been absent so far from the US export window.
So it's a huge week for you, basically.
It is a big week, yeah.
Okay, so that explains the rally, but on the flip side, what could derail the momentum?
So there's been quite a big, large figures coming out in terms of output estimates out of South America in particular. So we've seen this week the Rosario Grain Exchange coming in on Argentine corn, saying that the corn production for the past crop is 50 million tons. So that's 1.5 more than they had previously estimated. And for the new crop, they're estimating a massive 61 million tons. And that would be on the basis of a switch from soybean into corn area. Similarly, in Brazil, we've had 3 tentos coming for the new crop at 140 million tons in corn. That's a big crop estimate again. And that's comforted somehow by Safras, which for the first corn crop is already looking at 25.5 million tons of first corn crop production compared to 24.7 last year. And on top of it, 3 tentos also came with a very large estimate for the new crop in soybean in Brazil with a massive 180 million tons. So those figures are large, but we have to keep in mind we're starting to talk about La Nina again, and if La Nina comes to cause some trouble, those large crop estimates could be challenged.
Okay, so that's the story in the US, but let's cross over to Europe now. Have EU markets benefited from the Chicago support? And I want to start with rapeseed.
So yes, it has.
Okay.
Rapeseed, before I go into it specifically, I need to talk about the euro dollar first.
Okay.
So we've been mentioning that the dollar has fallen, the euro has gone up. So obviously any momentum to the upside from Chicago spills over into Paris and into London,
Right.
but somehow to a lesser extent because the euro is putting a brake on the upside. So yes, rapeseed has rallied. If we look at the North 25 rapeseed, we went up to 476 yesterday. We're currently around the 470 mark. So we're gaining again that 470, 475 range when we had gone down all the way to 460. But it's not just due to the Chicago support, especially at a time when the euro dollar has gone up to 119.50 basis deck. It's also due to 2 other stories. So there's a Canadian canola story going on. So Premier Carney has gone to China to be part of the Chinese delegation or the Canadian delegation to China to discuss the Canadian, the probe on Canadian canola from China from a dumping point of view. So there is optimism that maybe that probe is going to come to an end, that maybe there's going to be an agreement, and that maybe China is going to come back to buying Canadian canola. So Canadian canola prices have gone up. They're fed into rapeseed, so that's explained some of the rally.
Yeah.
And the other bit also, we've had some information from Ukraine. The new winter rapeseed area is 71% planted, but it is 60% under drought conditions. So that explains the recent hike in rapeseed, but it is contained by still this strong euro.
Okay, and one last thing before we let you go, I want to talk about Paris wheat. Has it managed to consolidate the way that trade bulls were hoping for?
So it has, but again, very similarly to rapeseed, it is contained by that strong euro.
Yeah.
But there is definitely consolidation. So when we look at last week, we had made a 188 low on December Paris wheat. The report came in. All the support elements I've mentioned have come in, and we're ranging from 190 to 192.75 on December. So we are consolidating, we are going to the upside. So that is satisfying in a way for the bulls. There's been also 2 other stories that came to also support a touch. First of all, Russia. The Russian ruble has gone up as well, so it's preventing some of the exports. And also Russia has upped its export tax by a touch. It's some 460 rubles per ton. It's far away from the 3,000 or 4,000 we've seen in the past, but it's gone up from 160 to 460. So combined with the higher ruble, it's making those exports maybe less competitive in the short term. And similarly to rapeseed, the Ukrainian winter wheat area is 60% in drought. So those elements have come to comfort the trade bulls who wanted to see a consolidation, and for the moment we're maintaining that consolidation. Now, the specs are looking still at a strong euro. They've been telling us again and again that the euro could go to 125, 130, 140, 150.
Yeah.
The December has made a high of 119.50. So we're not far from the 120 psychological mark. And the specs are going to say, we've told you Paris can't rally because of the euro. But there is a flip side to that coin. If Chicago rallies on a weak dollar, and if we expect 2-3 cuts from the Fed, we could see a Chicago momentum that could feed into Paris, and it could outweigh some of the euro pressure. So it is interesting to see that the specs so far are still 270,000 lots short. The funds in particular are 293.7 thousand lots short in Paris. We're going to get an update this afternoon, and I've got the feeling that maybe the specs have started to cover. The hint I'm getting is from the OI in December, which was around 407,000 lots overall, and it's come off to about 397.
Bertrand, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for watching. For more financial content, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.